How about them Maple Leafs? Yeah, I channeled my inner Skip Bass on that one. I was at work last night, but I still got to watch a lot of the game. A 7-4. It was funny. Another guy who's a Detroit fan who I was working with was chirping me. He's like, "Isn't Detroit not even above 500?" Blah blah. Wow, classic Leafs. When it was 4-2, and then literally he came back from serving someone, and I was like, "Oh, it's 5-4." And then he went out and came back. And I was like, "Oh, it's 7-4 now." He's like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "That's them Maple Leafs this year. Get used to it. We go down 4-1, we come back, but then we also give up 4-1 leads. There's just
my gosh.
There's no. Well, I guess that is some consistency for this.
Yeah, I was about to text you guys. Wow, I never thought I'd be worried about our firepower, and then they just lit it up.
Yeah.
Okay, they can do that.
Yeah, and that is specifically Calder Trophy, future Calder Trophy winner Michael Bunting, who I don't want to get too crazy here, but
is he a Scarborough native?
I don't know. Yeah, did they say it on the?
It'd be handy if they let us know if he was or not.
That's true. Just like they let us know that Calgary has a lot of tall players.
They find one fun fact or statistic and they're like, we're going to repeat this 8 times.
Yeah. Granted, that's a lot. It's a lot for them to talk about in one game without mentioning the same thing over and over, but it is true. They always just find one thing and just say it over and over and over again. And the thing that I hate, I tweeted last night, then we'll get to Michael Bunting, was it seems like every game, and even like pre-games and stuff, they're like, Willie's been put on the third line, and then Willie got played over 20 minutes last night, even on the third line. And it's like, Heath literally said when he made these lines right after, it's not a demotion. They're just trying to balance out the lines. Stop saying it's a third line like we're in 1999 when the third line was actually just a bunch of grinders because you only had 2 good lines. Like,
yeah, when you could look at the lines and the minutes would like
yeah, exactly. It was like a hierarchy of minutes based on what the lines appeared as. He's not on the third line. Even I guess technically in the way they're written, but in how lines are designed. The lines are pretty split evenly, although they did go back to the OG lines. And I guess it worked out. So yeah, that brings us to Michael Bunting. Thoughts?
Oh my gosh, he was just everywhere last night. He was trying to get some calls that weren't called. He was in front of the net, which I absolutely love. I mean, we need a guy to do that. He's been that guy, grinding everywhere. And just his hand-eye coordination was on last night. That was 2 sick goals.
Yeah.
And then the third is obviously awesome. But
yeah. 12 goals for him on the season now. More than Mitch Marner. That I didn't need to say that, but I did. Even though Mitch is one of my top performers. But yeah, and I think it goes without saying. We were just doing 2 top performers and 2 poor performers tonight. Bunting wasn't even on them because it was just too obvious, and I figured you would say it. But like, that's the type of player that you need for the playoffs because the guy's getting in fights in front of the net, like and who looked good on Detroit, who could be a potential trade target that I think I mentioned last podcast was Vlad Nemestikov.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and he's cheap. He's a rental. Anyways, that's just, we'll get to that on another thing. But he was the one guy that I really noticed for them. Obviously, Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah,
a lot of
he's such a stud.
Funny tweets after that shot block.
About
the vaccination status.
Those were funny.
Yeah, but yeah, what a legend. The guy has no face mask, just laying out in the line when you're already down by goals.
Highlight save.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael Bunting was literally everywhere. And like, what a perfect player to replace Hyman with, to play on that first line. And he's going to be the perfect kind of playoff player, possibly even a better playoff player than Hyman, because he'll get into those scrums. He'll be the Brad Marchand type rat
that we've
as
been
everyone
wanting.
calls him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Curtis Gabriel, who's no longer with us. So who are your top two performers? Is Bunting safe to assume as one?
Yeah, I didn't put Bunting just because he was like too obvious.
Oh, same.
But I had to put Sandin. First goal as a Leaf had to come from Captain T.
First goal this season.
Yeah. Well, as a Leaf too, isn't it?
He scored a power play goal in Montreal series.
Oh, okay. I thought it was his first ever. Well, first of the season.
Maybe.
So I was just so pumped. They said something like it's been 60 games to get a goal, but maybe they didn't count playoffs. But yeah, Sandin. Plus, I thought he was pretty good defensively too.
Yeah.
I think there was one.
But that's all you can expect from that's not what he's supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my second, I put Matthews. I wasn't going to put him because I was like, that's a too obvious one, but it wasn't like an insane night for him. Like, obviously he didn't light it up, but I saw him like he had to have gotten 2 hits. He was stealing the puck off guys, and he's just I read this thing where Spezza was mentioning how much of a leader he's become, and it's showing on the ice too. Like, he's commanding out there, and it was awesome to watch.
Yeah. And I made a tweet about Matthews. When he gets mad, he's a different type of player. And he started off the game with 2 pretty poor mistakes. Like, they weren't really, really bad, but they were mistakes by him, and you could tell.
Yeah, I should have been covering his guy.
Yeah, and then he gave away the puck in the defensive zone. 2 plays from the first 5 minutes, first 2 shifts, and it's stuff like that where, like, if you can leave with only giving up 1 goal, like, you're gonna have an angry Austin Matthews, and that's not good for the other team, because he only gets it very rarely. And I know I mentioned this past, but like the Jets game last year, I think it was the one that Jumbo Joe ended up like freaking out at the end. Matthews was fucking mad that game, and I've never seen him play a better game. So that's why it's scary, because he's such a level-headed dude. I guess I was kind of the same in hockey. If you got me mad, I would be insane. And like, yeah, it's a Tom Brady thing, right? Like psycho Tom comes out when he gets mad, but him, Michael Jordan, guys like that will literally find ways to get mad so that they get in that headspace. Be super cool if Austin Matthews could become that dude, but I just don't think it's his personality type.
So here are your 2.
I had Marner, just because I really liked the way he played. Played on the power play. He was dominating. He was an $11 million player, and that's all you can ask. And like, granted, maybe that's just what you got to expect every night. Yeah. Recently, we have been getting that every night, so that's why.
Nice.
I like the way he played. I also think that we need to give him some more. If Din's going to be talking shit, there's going to be someone on this show who needs to bring him up, because
give him props.
Yeah, because he is an awesome player. And then my other one is surprising. Justin Hall.
Okay, yeah.
Justin Hall had a good defensive game.
A shutdown night.
Yeah. And that's no Jake Muzzin. And it's not like Detroit balances their lines pretty well too. So it's wave after wave after wave. And Justin Hall did relatively well, even got an assist. So he is my other top performer, and I figured I'd give him some. I'm looking out for the guys that usually get ripped apart on this podcast.
Yeah.
And who are your 2 poor performers?
So for poor performers, I put Wayne Simmons down.
Okay.
And I did that earlier in the season, but I feel like he's just a body out there. Like, he's not contributing positively out there. He's not making mistakes, but like, he's just a body.
Yeah.
And I was pretty disappointed, because like I just want him to be a difference maker on the 4th, like whether that's a huge hit or an assist or anything. Like, I just want him to kind of show up more. Not to say he could be like motivating on the bench still, but just from the eye test, it was pretty disappointing.
Yeah. When was the last, I mean, to go off that, when do you think the last time, like, can you even think of the last time he had like a objectively good game where you noticed him? I can't. He started
No.
off the season really well,
Yeah.
like he was, and then he even was playing well enough that they gave him a shot with Austin Matthews when Marner got hurt for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But where has he been since? And
Yeah.
usually you can make the argument that like he's older, his body's banged up, so he needs like
Like the
he needs
Spezza
more of a
treatment where
break.
you kind of rest
Yeah.
them.
But we've had so much of a break.
Yeah.
You can't use that, So I don't know what he needs to get back on track, but I noticed that too. He wasn't one of my poor performers, but I definitely noticed that he was just hasn't been good recently,
Yeah.
and just hasn't not only been good, just you expect Wayne Simmons to make somewhat of a difference. But when Kyle Clifford is playing, you notice him more as making Wayne Simmons.
Yeah.
You can't have that.
No.
So
and the second one might be the same. I put Travis Dermott. He just seemed to be getting schooled out there. But like no big giveaways, and he's not a guy who's going to pinch and leave the other defenseman hanging. But I just felt him lacking last night.
Yeah, and that's become pretty consistent with him recently, eh? Like
which is disappointing.
Another one of those guys where it's just like, when was his last objectively good
big game?
Yeah.
He's not going to get points, so you want him to be sound defensively.
And he used to, like, even last year and the year before, like he would have games where you'd be like, wow, this guy can really be something. He hasn't had that this year.
Yeah.
It's weird because usually you take a step forward, but hopefully he still has some trade value. So my two are Liljegren. I hate to say it because I like him, but he does make some, they're not just mistakes. He makes some mistakes when he's like rushing up when the forwards are ahead of him, and he'll get away with the puck or make a bad pass.
Weird passes.
And he'll get caught. The other guy's caught on 2-on-1s or, like.
Yeah.
But that's just growing pains, and I'm not too concerned about it. But I did notice him where it's just like, you gotta trim down those a little bit. You can maybe have one a game. Definitely can't in the playoffs, but like growing as you are first full year in the NHL, you just got to limit those a little bit more.
Yeah, he's allowed to be on the list right now.
Yeah. And then my other is Mrazek. Not necessarily because he let up any bad goals, but he's consistently letting up 4 goals.
Yeah.
And you can get away with it within your Leafs. Obviously, scored 7. Granted, we only scored 5 with the goalie in the net, but like you can't have that type of play in the playoffs either, or you can't have that type of play against Tampa. So if you're getting paid $3.8 million and we're already cap strapped, you got to be a little bit better. You got to make a big save. Granted, when he needed to make saves in the third period,
I was about to bring that up.
He did, but that seems like standard.
The only positive, he came up huge in the third.
You mentioned that literally last game he played. You said Mrazek let in some pretty bad ones, but then in the third he shut it down when it mattered. And it's like, okay, but let's not get to the point where it really needs to matter, So maybe it's just one of those things. He hasn't played that much, but
he's so fun to watch because he's literally sliding everywhere.
Like a creepy crawler. Curtis Joseph is back.
It's sick. I love it. If only, if he could do that if he's only letting in 2, but it's 4 goals and he's like stacking the pads. Like, whoa.
Yeah. Now, granted, the Leafs played awful in the first period, so he did hold them in there.
I thought the first it was kind of 50-50, but I thought in the second we were even worse.
Interesting.
And then the third we just firepower.
I think the first they outshot us like 17-5.
Yeah, but that was like in the first half of the first, I feel like. And then the second half of it, I was like, okay, we got right back into it. We're looking good. And then we came out flat in the second. Oh no!
And still won 7-4.
Yeah.
I looked up Wayne Simmons' time on ice last night. Do you want to take a guess of what it was?
Ooh, it was like 4 minutes.
No, that's always fun when
7.
you're like, how much do you think this costs? And someone like completely overblows it, but you were excited to tell them that it was like this much, and they were like, whoa, that much, but they like went 500 over, and you're like, oh, it's not fun to say anymore. uh he played 9 minutes 18 seconds, so the least amount on the entire team.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
over a minute.
I'm looking at it. Engvall only had 1 more minute, but he looked way better. Not only he scored, but like
he's faster.
He was breaking up plays with his 10-foot stick, and
He's
he needs
basically
to be
forward Martin Brinson.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say the only other thing about this game that I thought was pretty wild was, like, it could be wrong, but the hit total, 10 hits to 6. Isn't that really low?
I think there's some
like,
the
was
way
it
that
just
they're measuring hits. Like, so as an example, I tried to look up who has the most hits on the Maple Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me like 6 separate stat sites to find the answer.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's some conspiracy going on, but maybe the fact that the earth is so flat that it's just harder for them to measure hits. But I don't know if they're measuring it weird this game, but I guess for the Leafs, Justin Hall led him with 3.
Yeah.
And it's just weird because you feel like sometimes that a lot more gets counted as hits, and sometimes a lot less gets counted as hits.
Like the scrums in the corner, like there's a hit. Like, come on.
Yeah. But in the past, I think they would count stuff like that. But then some games they count, like Rasmus Sandin having 10, and then some games the whole team has 10. So it's just like, I don't know if there's too much consistency with it, because I don't think it's a stat that people really give a shit about anymore.
Yeah, only some. Like,
it's
pretty rare. But yeah, I thought that was really weird.
They'll probably just have a guy who, like, they just want to give him a job just because, like, he's like the family friend of someone, and like, he can't hold another job. Count the hits, and the guy's just like half stoned on the couch, like, oh, I think that was one. Well, I don't remember, but Justin Hall looked good, 3 hits. So and that's another thing where if I'm looking at this, Wayne Simmons has 0 hits. So great, even like, it just seems unreal because it seems like at least he'd get 1, but it's not a stat that I don't think anyone really takes into account anymore.
Because if we only had 6, we'd have 2 hits per period. Come on.
Yeah, especially when Detroit had the puck for so much in the first 2 periods.
Yeah. And the only other news I had to bring up was, apparently the Leafs have been getting calls about what it would take to get Mrazek.
So I read a few different things on that. I think the one is saying, and this is another one where people, I think Downtown's going to include it in his next video because he was tweeting about it, and he'll do the deep dive. So check out that one when it comes out. He actually messaged me last night and he was like, "Can I come on if they lose?" And I was like, and then he didn't respond when I said yes when we won. So seems he only wants to join in our pain. But he'll probably make a video on it soon. I think there were some conflicting reports where, like, they're saying that Dubas is saying that he's not going to look into a goalie trade until the summer. But teams are calling possibly about this year, but probably about the summer for
okay.
Yeah, so it's not going to be anything that happens this year, but once again, it's Dubas, you never know. If the perfect trade comes along, maybe, but then you'd have to go get another goaltender for the playoffs. So it would just add to extra thing. And we're not getting on trade talk on this episode. This is just purely a Red Wings post game. So that pretty much closes it out for us. We will do a New Jersey pregame. Go Rams today. I know we're both super excited. We've been watching a lot of hype videos, and this is just preparation. I was thinking about what I rank the Rams excitement for me, and like when we came back and everything, to the Leafs playoffs.
Ooh.
And it's I love the Rams. I love football. But I'm just thinking, and maybe it's the way the NHL is set up where there's 7 games per series. So you're watching so much more that like you're more invested into it. But Leafs, if they're in the conference finals championship, it would be a whole different story.
Yeah. I think so.
I think also just because
there's
a history.
Yeah, and like we could actually go to Toronto to like watch in the square. So versus LA, like I'm not flying out there.
Yeah. And
maybe one day.
Not even to mention like have you ever been chirped for being a Rams fan?
No.
Ever. Leafs fan? Yeah. And a lot of the thing, I think we can get into this in the next long episode because we're going to be talking about like Leaf stories, like what makes us a fan, where were you in the Boston game, blah, blah, blah. But I think one of the main drives for a lot of Leafs fans is the fact that we just get chirped so much. And
we just want to prove them wrong.
And the dread is just like, we just want to shut them up. Like the dread is like, oh, if we lose a game in the playoffs, how many text messages each one? We're not just talking about us two. All of us Leaf fans are going to get from everyone. Be like, oh, they did it again. And then you have to wait a whole other year for it to do it. And then anytime you make anything in the regular season where it's like, wow, they're playing so good. Look at like what Martin's been doing last week. Yeah, but the playoffs.
Oh my gosh.
You also don't really have too much of a rebuttal. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's the real thing, because part of you is just like, I need it to not get these text messages that are just going to rehash my pain.
Yeah.
We'll also, get to that on the next episode.
Go Canada. They're facing the US World Cup qualifying today, and hopefully we lay a stomping on them. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Convincingly too. Like we're looking awesome without Davies.
Nice. Well, for everyone who's watching who definitely also don't know who Davies is, go Canada.
Yeah. Right. Everyone knows who he is now.
All right. That's it for us.
We'll
see you tomorrow for our New Jersey Devils.
See ya.